Good evening, everyone. I am here to teach you, on the behest of my employer, the proper procedures for discussing a certain SCP. If you are in this class, then you have been trusted with this information. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. The extra-dimensional location described below, as well as the entities and landmarks contained therein, are nomenclative hazards, issue class, and therefore may not be referred to by any name, title, or designation. Only descriptions may be used when referring to the forest outside normative space and entities thereof. Variations must be made in these descriptions each time the subject is described. Descriptions may be color-coded for clarity or associated with certain audio cues. And florid language may be used for the sake of nomenclative diversity. In the event of a nomenclative containment breach, standard issue class recontainment protocol must be carried out immediately by the individual responsible for the breach. If the individual is rendered unable to perform the procedure, the responsibility falls to the individual's next of kin. If the individual responsible for the breach has no known next of kin, the individual's name must be expurgated from all existing documents and records. Any other individuals possessing the same name are to be administered Type G viral amnestics and assigned a new name. In accordance with Order 05-4000-F-26, at least one successful expedition into the strange and dangerous woodland area must be carried out once per year to assess any deviations from the baseline abnormality. Due to the high risk involved in entering the place where the nameless are found, personnel who are sent to conduct research must be trained in standard exploration protocol as detailed in 4000 SEP. In other words, the class you're in right now. Unauthorized documentation of the forest found in chimneys must be suppressed via standard information containment protocol. Unauthorized individuals with knowledge of this procedure are to be administered amnestics and may be released following a period of disquisitional rehabilitation. Description: the SCP in question is an extra-dimensional forested area with numerous anomalous qualities, including a hazardous nomenclative phenomenon. This anomalous location is accessed by performing 4000 Halloway. After completing the procedure, subjects emerge from a dilapidated brick well fixed on the forest floor. The only way to reliably traverse the unusual terrain is by use of a single dirt path. Explorations that diverge from said route have resulted in immediate loss of contact with participating subjects. The sole safe road may be traversed in a single direction, and any attempt by subjects to turn back and return will result in a similar loss of contact. The unnamed world does not adhere to the constraints of linear space. Cartographic endeavors have resulted in vastly different routes being recorded with each expedition, and sections of the mandatory trail, which should logically overlap or intersect, do not. The only consistency in layout is the access point, which is always located at both ends of the main road. The only way for a subject to safely exit the woods, which have no name, after they have begun following it, is by walking its entire length and returning to the place where they began at the opposite end. A variety of anomalous entities native to the nameless habitat have been documented. Native entities often undergo changes in physical structure when unobserved, which has made it difficult for researchers to determine which recorded entities are unique beings and which are newer iterations of those previously documented. Entries claim they have no control over these changes and frequently express dissatisfaction when they occur. Native entities often obstruct the trail which subjects tread, making it necessary for subjects to interact with them to progress. Native entities are sapient and often highly temperamental, but can be interacted with safely as long as 4000 SEP precautions are followed. Yes. Consequences for disregarding these precautions will vary depending on the personality of the offended enemy. Degrees of retribution encountered by research subjects have included personal verbal rebuke, acts of violence, and anomalous alterations of the subject's physical, conceptual, or nomenclative attributes. Various anomalous phenomena may occur when consistent nomenclature is applied to the realm of the unnameable, its native entities, or its landmarks. These phenomena are still poorly understood, partially due to the prohibition of nomenclative experimentation under Order 05 4000 F26. Yes. Documented nomenclative phenomena have included episodic cluster headaches among subjects exposed to affected nomenclature, visual and auditory hallucinations among exposed subjects, usually involving environments or entities described by nomenclature. Gustatory hallucinations and phantasmia have also been reported in a small subset of cases. Sudden onset of psychogenic amnesia among exposed subjects. The development of non-human physical characteristics among exposed subjects, such as feathers and pollen sacs. The development of biological components on non-biological mediums where nomenclature is written or recorded. Sudden involuntary transport of exposed subjects to the wilderness of unnamed things without the use of Procedure 4000 Halloway. Manifestation of various flora within indoor spaces where nomenclature was used. Sudden transportation of native entities to areas where nomenclature was used. Biological fusion with exposed subjects and native entities. Biological fusion of native entities and architectural spaces where nomenclature was used. Extreme iron deficiency in exposed subjects with an absence of expected negative side effects. Order 05-4000 F-26 was ratified by the Overseer Council in 1954. A 1970 amendment requires that 05-4000 F-26 receive unanimous endorsement from the Council every 10 years to remain in effect. To date, no Overseer memos regarding 05-4000 F-26 have been disseminated to lower clearance levels. Yes, I will now read you some notable containment breaches. Yes, the following are examples of anomalous phenomena observed during nomenclative breaches. Date: 9 June 1954. Named subject: the glade of which we seldom speak. Summary: initial discovery and subsequent breach took place in an abandoned home in rural Connecticut. Circumstances of the discovery are unclear due to lack of surviving personnel, but a general timeline of events has been established. Timestamps are in standard NATO format. 1340S. The hollow of unspoken titles is discovered and given a temporary Type E designation by Field Agent Garrett Bradley, creating a nomenclative breach. 1345S. Field Agent Maura Donati enters the land beyond the flue and is never recovered. 1347S. Agent Bradley begins to gradually sink into the hardwood floor. Nearby agents flee the area. 1348S. Soon after exiting the house, all agents are suddenly rendered immobile, with the exception of Timothy Woods, who was not aware of the Type E designation. 1349S. Immobilized agents localize distress as their torsos elongate. Elongation ceases after agents have reached a height approximating that of the chimney where procedure 4000 Holloway was performed. Smoke expels from their facial orifices. Timothy Woods reports these developments via radio to Site 8. Secondary breach is caused when Timothy repeats the phrase, the blank, to describe the world where words have power. Timothy Woods states that he sees his name in the trees. Site 8 personnel press Timothy Woods for further information. Timothy Woods attempts to orally consume his radio and soon expires from internal injuries. 13459S. Timothy Woods' correspondents in Site 8 are observed suffering from severe headaches and are placed under quarantine. 1424S. Osteal protrusions resembling tree branches emerge from the orbital cavities of quarantined Site 8 personnel. Personnel report no physical discomfort, despite exhibiting full globalization in both sockets. Afterward, nomenclative anomaly eventually discovered after numerous cycles of multivariable D-class exposure to affected Site 8 personnel. Breach date: 22nd December 1955. Named subject: the footpath which loops around the entire area. Summary: Desk completed the first successful exploratory mission in the grove beneath nameless stars and was immediately quarantined. After exhibiting no anomalous effects for 72 hours, Desk was then allowed to write an account of his experiences. When researchers returned, Desk had vanished. Traces of soil and human tissue were later found in the pencil, paper, and Harvey Mansfield Desk had used in his writing. Breach date: 19 August 1958. Named subject: the native entity that sits atop a throne of bones and cradles a flaming child. Summary: after completing an exploratory mission, Field Agent Ethan Mercy used the same epithet several times when describing a particular native entity. Several minutes later, he complained of severe nausea and began to vomit blood and bone marrow. Over the course of several hours, Agent Mercy was reported to have somehow orally expelled most of his bones. Personnel throughout Site-8 experienced auditory hallucinations of a woman's laughter for the next several days. Breach date: 4th March 1966. Named subject: the native entity that resembles a feathered lion with a skeletal ram's head. Summary: college student Vanessa Hayforth attempted to check into numerous medical facilities in and around Portland, Oregon, complaining that her head had become covered in flesh, despite exhibiting no signs of unusual tissue growth. She was eventually detained by the Foundation investigators and found to be in possession of a book that described, among other things, Procedure 4000 Halloway in its entirety. After stipulating that Foundation personnel assist in removing the flesh from her head if she cooperated, Hayforth confessed that she had received the book from an acquaintance in the Wanderer's Library. This was the first known case of a civilian-triggered nomenclative breach. Similar incidents have occurred intermittently since. In 2012, a native entity was photographed that superficially resembled a young Hayforth, more than 2 decades after Hayforth died in Foundation custody. Breach date: 30th October 1992. Named subject: the house in which Michael Ashley Vincent spent several nights during his exploratory mission. Summary: Agent Michael Ashley Vincent, who had completed an exploratory mission several years prior, used the possessive phrase "blank house" several times while recounting stories of his 2 colleagues who did not have names. Some time later, a large brick building manifested inside Site-8, intersecting with existing architecture. Michael Ashley Vincent's headless body was found inside, seizing violently and fused at the neck to a light fixture made of elk antlers. His face, which did not appear animate, had enlarged to take up the entire surface area of the building's floor. Field agents sent into the face's mouth said it did not possess a full digestive tract. However, Michael Ashley Vincent's nameless colleagues were reported to have been conjoined with his uvula. Now I will describe Procedure 4000 Halloway. 4000 Halloway. The following is a censored list of instructions for accessing the horizon beyond labels. Certain steps have been omitted in this version of the document. Phrases and counterphrases at the end of the procedure will differ depending on the subject's type category. The oldest child in the family, type 1. The middleborn, type 2. Or the youngest or only child, type 3. Step 1. Using organic kindling, start a steady flame within any indoor fireplace. Step 2. Combine the powdered bones of a male red fox, Vulpes vulpes, any age, and an adult male lion, Panthera leo, and a baleen whale, any age, any gender. Cast the mixture into the fire. Step 3. Take an easily burnt personal possession of strong sentimental value and allow the fire to consume it. Step 4. Carefully release 3 feathers from any black-plumed bird of the genus Corvus over the fire and allow the smoke to carry them up the flue. Step 5. If the fire begins to emit vocalizations, respond with the appropriate counterphrase. See phrases and counterphrases below. If the correct statements are given, the fireplace will expand and the ladder will descend. The fire will be harmless. If incorrect statements are made for any reason, immediately apologize and do not attempt Procedure 4000 Halloway again at any point in the future. Please note, individuals who are present during Procedure 4000 Halloway but were not the one conducting the procedure must not respond to vocalizations or approach the active fireplace under any circumstances. Phrases and counterphrases. Type 1. Phrase. These woods have rules. Counterphrase. Or so they say. Phrase. And if you break them? Counterphrase. A price I'll pay. Type 2. Phrase. Is someone there? Counterphrase. There's only me. Phrase. And who are you? Counterphrase. I guess you'll see. Type 3. Phrase. What do you seek? To talk to the trees. Phrase. Now mind your manners. Counterphrase. To walk them, please. Now I will recite. Guideline 4000 SCP-1. The guidelines for exploration. The following is a truncated list containing only instructions that are crucial to survival. Personnel assigned to explorative duties must also familiarize them with 4000 SCP-3 through 8 before embarking. General Guidelines 1.01. You must be equipped with a standard Foundation Expedition Pack prior to entering the place where names are not allowed. 1.02. Do not consume any food other than the rations included inside the standard Foundation Expedition Pack. 1.03. Do not bring firearms into the dimension of trees under any circumstances. 1.04. Type 1 subjects must avoid accepting or directly handling that which could be considered a valuable resource. This includes, but is not limited to, forms of currency, precious metals and stones, objects imbued with useful anomalous properties, and well-crafted weaponry. 1.05. Type 2 subjects must avoid any native entities that regard the subject with affection or romantic attraction, and must not be given the appearance of reciprocating these feelings in any way. Statements made by a native entity which profess attraction or affection for a Type 2 subject are false. 1.06. Type 3 subjects must avoid partaking in activities that are commonly considered frivolous, luxurious, or physically comforting. This includes, but is not limited to, dancing, smoking, playing with toys, drinking anything other than water, listening to music, and sleeping on a padded surface. 1.07. Structures encountered along the way you must travel may be entered after knocking at the entryway. Leave the structure from whence you came. If entering uninvited, do not be discovered. 1.08. If you fall asleep in the woods where rules are paramount, record your dreams. A journal is included in your expedition pack. If you encounter any landmarks or entities similar to the dream you recorded, treat the dream as fact. Guidelines for interacting with native entities. 2.01. Greet native entities with any formal salutation before engaging in conversation. If female, bow or curtsy. 2.02. Speak in a cordial tone of voice. 2.03. Do not make any statements that you know to be false. 2.04. Do not make disparaging comments about native entities while in their presence. 2.05. Say please and thank you when appropriate. 2.06. Refer to and address native entities using descriptions of their physical appearance per Protocol 4000 issue. 2.07. Do not refer to a native entity by a name, title, or designation, even if it introduces itself as such. 2.08. Do not state your name, nickname, code name, alias, or any other personal designation when in the presence of a native entity. 2.09. If a native entity offers to assign you a name, title, or designation, politely decline. 2.10. If a native entity makes a statement which it addresses or refers to you by a name, title, designation, or anything other than a physical description, ignore the statement as though it has not been spoken. 2.11. If pressed for any information that is considered confidential, refuse briefly and apologize below. 2.12. If a native entity appears to require your assistance, consider its appearance before choosing to help. If the entity appears threatening, do whatever is necessary to aid it. If the entity appears attractive or harmless, do not approach. always feed a entity if it is hungry. This rule overrides the previous rule. 2.13. Do not attempt to mount any bestial entities you encounter unless it has earned your trust and given you its consent. 2.14. If you are offered a physical gift, receive it with both hands. Do not discard the gift, even if it appears to have no use or value. This is overruled by 1.04. 2.15. If a native entity offers you a non-physical gift or attempts to initiate a trade, politely decline. 2.16. You may accept food and offer that food to other native entities, but do not consume it yourself. 2.17. Do not sleep in any lodging offered to you by native entities. You may sleep inside the residence of a native entity as long as you do not have an invitation to do so. If a native entity offers to accompany you on your journey, accept, but do not tell them where you are going. 2.19. If you are aided by a native entity, you must aid it in return if you have not done so already. 2.20. If you encounter an incorporeal humanoid that claims it is not a native entity, disregard all previous protocols and follow its instructions. That's the end of the standard exploration protocol. The rest are in your provided files. I trust you know what to do with them once you are finished reading. Finally, an interview log with Dr. Jaspers and a native entity with a head resembling that of a rabbit's. Forward. This interview was conducted in 2005 during Dr. Jasper's first expedition into the space where speech is deadly. There are 3 encounters. I'll play each one now.
Good morning, strange traveler. Good morning. It's nice to see a new face around these parts. Kindly excuse the smoke, I'm just airing my thoughts. How is your name? I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't tell you that. Are you simple? I'm merely asking how your name is. My name has smelled of raspberries lately, I think. Or snapdragons, perhaps. It's so hard to tell these days, but one makes an effort. Ah, my apologies. I'm afraid my name has tasted rather tart as of late. Oh, no, I'm the one who should apologize. I shouldn't have pried. It's quite all right. I don't mind at all. It's been lovely to meet you, but I must be on my way. Oh, must you, though? My home is close by, and I was hoping to invite you in for tea. I'm terribly sorry, but unfortunately I cannot stop at this moment. Perhaps another day. Very well. Until next time, stranger whose name tastes rather tart.
This is encounter number 2.
Good afternoon, stranger. Except, pardon me, we've met before, haven't we? Good afternoon. I believe so, yes. 3 years ago, if memory serves. I remember now. You ran off in quite a hurry. Yes, my apologies for that. At the time, I was new and wary of those who I encountered. Still the apologetic one, I see. No matter, you're not from around here. Very interesting. What woods are you from? I do not come from any woods. Nonsense! Certainly you have trees where you're from, do you not? Yes, we have trees, but they're very sparse. Most of the land is covered in homes and businesses. Oh, then they are inferior woods, but woods nonetheless. Tell me, how did you get here? I see you have an inquiring mind. I'd like to ask you a question, if that's all right. Pardon my lack of manners, sir. I consider myself something of a scholar, you see, and I get a bit excited when I have a chance to learn of forests outside my own. By all means, pose your question. When last we met, you said it had become difficult to describe your name. Do you have any theories about why that may be? Oh, I can only assume it's because of how long we've been apart, my name and I, that is. It was a good name, a proud name, I'm fairly sure. By this point, though, it's probably decayed from its former grandeur, if it even still exists. Where do you think it is currently? First, fellow scholar, you must answer my previous question. Right. I came through the old but distinguished well at the end of the footpath I'm presently, perambulating. Oh my. It's been quite some time. I'll be frank, I thought the old allies had died out. Did your grandfather or some such have a relation or a lover out here? My deepest apologies, I'm afraid I can't answer that question. Very well, I understand. I'd invite you to my cottage for tea, but I suppose that's not possible for you, is it? I'm afraid not. Oh, you needn't fear so much. Take this and be on your way. Thank you very much. Happy travels to you, and may you find the one you're looking for.
Afterward, Dr. Jaspers later used the cabbage leaf to feed a native entity resembling a field mouse, which, in turn, aided him in his travels. Encounter number 3. Forward. Interview conducted in 2013 during Dr. Jasper's 9th expedition into yonder vale of restless wanderers. Due to the unique knowledge that the one who bore the gift of cabbage seemed to possess about our world, Dr. Jaspers was instructed to conduct a more thorough interview should it be encountered a third time. Additionally, Dr. Jaspers was granted special permission to make false statements for the sake of facilitating conversations, as his first encounter with the fluffy one to be susceptible to deceptions. Traveling along the way of weary adventurers, Dr. Jaspers encountered a small white cottage with a thatched roof. A small opening in the shape of a rabbit's head is cut into the front of the door. Dr. Jaspers approached.
Hello? Is anyone home? Yes, 1 minute. We meet again. Come in, come in.
Dr. Jaspers is led inside. The interior is sparsely decorated with wooden furniture and needlework.
You have a lovely home. Oh, you have a lovely sense of humor. No, really, I think it's charming. I suppose. It was just meant to be until things cooled down on the other side, but, well, you know. I'm afraid I don't know. Would you like some help? No. You just have yourself a seat at the table there while I get the tea ready for us.
Dr. Jaspers draws a chair and seats himself.
You're most generous, but I don't think my digestion will permit it. Oh, poor fellow. Well, I find the presence of tea to be a comfort in any case. Well, you are most kind. Tell me, could you explain what you meant by cooled down? Your relations didn't tell you the full story, I suppose, about the turmoil that drove us here. Turmoil? Was there a war? Isn't there always? My grandparents told me there were wars, but I never knew of one with you or your kind. No, it doesn't surprise me. There are very few, even in these woods, that still remember. Memory is a burden of the old, I suppose, but yes. When I was a young lad, in a form very different than the one I possess now, I lived on the other side of the well. It's where I was born, where I grew up, and if I dare to dream, where I someday will return. Why don't you then? I can't. Not unless I know I would be welcomed back. I'm sure you don't know this, since they keep themselves hidden, but that are those who would destroy me at the nearest chance. My apologies. These are dark memories. I'm sure you don't want to hear about them. No, please go on. These things are of interest to me. I'm a fellow scholar, remember? As you wish, fellow scholar. I shall talk until the tea is cold. Much as it grieves me to say, we were betrayed. We had fought side by, in the war against that factory. We'd done nothing but help them, and what did they do? They destroyed us. They took so many of our lives and all of our names. Some of us fled here when the war was just beginning, but not many. Not many. Still, though, I don't hate them. I'm glad for that. I'd imagine so. There are some old fogies around these parts who bear a grudge against the whole species, but I know you're not all bad. There were many who sheltered us, who fought for us, even died for us. Some came to live here amongst us, rest their souls. I myself courted a human once upon a time. He came to visit a time or two, but I never saw him after that. I still wonder now and again if he fell at the hand of that unkind neighbor, or if he merely stopped caring to see me. But it's no matter now. I apologize for prattling on about old flames. Certainly such things are no interest to you, fellow scholar. On the contrary, I'd like to hear more of these stories. The life of you and your people are of great interest to me. I'm sure it is, fellow scholar.
A strong breeze moves through the house. Neither party speaks for half a minute. The rabbit person who lives there grunts and places a hand to its head as if in pain. Dr. Jaspers places his hand against the teapot.
It seems the tea has gotten cold. I think it's time I took my leave. What? You're leaving? I should leave too then. Dr. Jaspers rises from the table. No. I'll be going alone, thank you. It's abrupt, yes, and I'm grievously sorry to do this, but I really must be going. I believe I'm long overdue to return home. What? Please, don't go. Something isn't... Oh, it can't be helped. Stop! What have you done? I don't know. What happened to my name? I can't...
Dr. Jaspers quickly exits the house. His former companion whimpers and looks at his hands as he leaves.
It does taste rather tart.
End log. Afterward, Dr. Jaspers was successfully returned to Site-8, but was reported missing soon after. Investigations into his disappearance and current whereabouts have been inconclusive. It was initially theorized that Dr. Jaspers was exposed to an anomalous influence on his physiology during his most recent mission. However, thorough analysis showed no genetic abnormalities in the fur he'd shed on his expedition gear. Well now, I hope you've gleaned enough information from me for the time being, for my time is short presently. I'm sure we will see each other soon, and for those of you who descend into the place beyond the fireplace, well, I bid you good luck. Thank you for your time.